Hey there, you want to see something cool? Check this out. A working clock inside Minecraft. No command blocks, just something interesting called a function pack. It adds up seconds, adds up minutes, adds up hours, and adds a whole lot of fun to your realm. Want to see how to make it? It's actually not as difficult as what you might think. All it is just a basic behavior pack for Minecraft. You have a manifest file, just kind of a standard old manifest file. You have a pack icon that can be any size, usually divisible by 2, so 16 by 16, or in this case 128 by 128 pixels. It goes right here inside of your behavior pack file, just right underneath the main folder. And then of course, if we want to see the rest of the outline, there's your manifestation and each of the functions that we're going to be talking about that makes this clock work the way it needs to work. And don't worry, if you are not familiar with coding, that's plenty fine. I'll leave a link in the actual Discord for, Minecraft Bedrock add-ons that you can take to look at this and download it for yourself. Pretty useful to have, and it works for each individual player too. So what a function pack does is it actually just takes what you would put inside command blocks inside of your world and puts them in a resource pack that ticks every second throughout your entire world. Several benefits to this includes not having to restart the clock by going near a command block or a loaded chunk whenever you update the game. Constantly active. So here's what you have to do. You start off adding scoreboard objectives. Scoreboard objectives like this. Add second dummy actually creates a kind of like a title for an objective that each player will have. So you notice that we've done one for tick, we've done one for second, done one for minute, and we've done one for hour. So Minecraft actually keeps track of time through means of ticks. Every 20 ticks adds 1 second. And of course, every 60 seconds adds 1 minute. So what we're going to do is if we were to actually use this as a command block inside the game, and in this function pack, it'll be the same. We're going to use the execute command. So right here, execute as at A. What this part is saying of the first part of this command here is we're going to say that for every player on your realm or in your world, we're going to execute this command as them. And the command is run. So we're going to run the scoreboard players, add at self or to the player 1 tick. Now we remember that with a function pack, it always has a tick JSON, okay? So we got a clock, a display. This will actually run every single tick, or 20 times a second within Minecraft. So every tick, we just add 1 to the counter for that individual player. The second execute command, it executes for all players as that player if the score of that player, which in this case happens to be our tick objective, matches 20. If it matches 20, then we're going to actually add 1 second onto our little objectives. That makes sense, right? Because 20 ticks equals 1 second. The thing is, too, we also need to make sure that this happens every single time it hits 20 ticks. That's where this next execute command comes in at. As soon as it hits 20, we also want to set the player's objective, which is tick, to 0. So it's basically going to restart the timer. It's going to increment up. So that was the kind of the tricky part about getting everything set up. But how do we actually go from seconds to minutes? That's where the next execute command comes in. It's always going to be starting the same. Execute as at A, if score at self, okay? And every single part after that is a little different. In this case, when the second objective matches 60, we're going to have them add 1 to the minute objective. And then the same thing. When second matches 60 also, we have to reset it back to 0, so it restarts. And it's the same thing for adding hours and days and months and however you want to do it. When minute matches 60, then you can add 1 hour. Just be sure to set the minute back to 0 so that the clock can continue again. One thing to note is that sometimes we set an objective to a specific number. So in this case, here the highlighted, we're setting the tick or the second or the minute back to 0. In other cases, we're adding to the objective second, minute, hour, 1. So that's how we can kind of keep track of everything. And what's unique about this as opposed to command blocks is all of these activate at the same time. So that's why we have to keep them in this order, just to keep our clock working right. Now you might be thinking, Ivy man, that's nice and all, but how do we make it pretty, right? Kind of like this. So you can see that we have our time is yellow. Our hours are kind of like a little grayish blue. We have it situated line by line. And it's not all on the side of the screen like some add-ons. How do we go about doing that? Well, this is the complicated part. Oh yeah. This is an execute command if I've ever seen one. We start with the first part of the execute command. Execute as at A. So for every player, we're executing this command as that player. If an entity, so in this case we're doing at self, at s. So if the player themselves has an item, notice that there is a, yeah, it's a little easier to see now. Notice where my cursor is blinking here that there is an array bracket. We have to make sure that we're including that after the at self because we want to modify the player in some way. We can also do this with entities or specific items, but anyway, so the player has an item that is equal to, so in object brackets, so we're saying that if the player has the item clock inside of the game and in a particular location, in this case we're going to choose the weapon slot or the main hand of the player. Only if that condition is met do we run the title raw command. This command right here. Title raw is interesting because that is what affects actual display messages above your HUD bar, on the side of your screen. You can do like animation movie titles if you like. Title raw is a way that you can actually represent JSON code onto the actual player's screen to get a unique experience. So if we have a clock in our main hand, we're going to run that title raw command at ourself, in particular within the action bar, which is just above our little HUD bar with the hearts and, you know, our items that we're carrying. This is how we make sure that the clock is specific to the player. We give it a selector. In this case, the selector is at S or at self. So the player's name, in my case, IvyMan1992, would actually be displayed above my clock. My wife logged into her realm yesterday and got to check it out, and hers was names are my game. And hers was displayed there. So this is what makes the clock unique to the player themselves and adds some really fancy variables if you think about it. Because you can change this not just to yourself, but you can have it displayed to all players if you want to. You just get creative. Now after our name, so the selector, we want to create a new line, which just drops it one below it. So we're going to add another object. In this case, it's just some plain text. And that text is going to be a backward slash or an escape slash with an N in front of it. So that represents a new line, dropping it one lower. And then in that new line, we have a new set of text right here. This kind of looks a little bit funny. It's where it said time, and time was yellow inside of our clock. You got this little squiggly thing here. And the best way I can show you where to see it is if you go to your keyboard and you just do the top right here, so you can see it on my right hand side of the screen in the middle. It also almost looks like two S's right next to that little triangle and right after the X on the top there. And that's what adds our format codes to our text or our JSON files. Using a format code, we can actually change the color to gold, we can change it to red, we can add bold, italics. There's a lot of information in regard to format codes. We can always go into it another time, but for now, we're using that little format selector. And we put a G after there, which stands for gold. And then we put our actual text word that we want, which is time. We do another format code and put an R after that. What the R is, it just resets it. So everything after that text is no longer going to be gold. So you remember in our clock.mc function, we have the add tick dummy, the second dummy, minute, hour. Those are our objectives that we want actually displayed on the screen while we're holding the clock. So we create another object bracket. And this time, instead of text, we add score. So we're going to be calling the score of one of the objectives that we just made. The hour, the tick, minute, whatever we want. So we're going to give it the name. That name is @self. Okay, so this is important because we're basically saying that we want ourselves, the player that's holding the clock, their objective to actually show up. And the objective in this case was hour. So the very first number or thing that's going to be displayed is the hour score or the objective of the player holding the clock. And then we add some simple text, same thing using format codes, and we list that as hours, and we go into a new line after that. So we're holding the clock, and you can actually see what we did represented it here. So we have the Ivy Man 1992, so that was our selector, which is ourself. We have a new line just below it. We have time, which is the score that we are going to just kind of label all together as time. But the actual score that we're going to be keeping track of is the hours objective, right? So currently I don't have any hours, but if I want to, I can change that. So we go into our commands and we can see that this is absolutely representative of what we just did. Instead, we're just typing it in. Scoreboard players add @self hour 3, which should actually just increase our hours to 3. And there we go. 3 hours added for Ivy Man 1992. That's all the function's doing, except we don't have to type everything in. So we continue on with the minutes and seconds. So after adding a new line, we add another score inside of our object brackets with the name of @ourself. So we're going to be calling our own score. And the objective in particular that we're calling is minute. We add some basic text right after that with formatting codes for minutes, and then a new line. So that's how we get the minute score. And then we go ahead and just continue it on this way. So we can see that we have another score here. We're going to add name @self. So again, we're calling our own objective for second. And then we display that afterward with the text for seconds. So the main thing is after you've added those two files, the clock and the MC function, we just want to make sure that they're actually listed within the tick JSON under clock and display. We don't actually have to add .mc function, but this means that the game will run this every single tick. So again, the layout within our behavior pack, so we can all zip it all up and turn it into an MC add-on. I'll show you in just a second. We have our functions folder, our manifest.json, and our pack icon. Within our functions folder, we have the clock.mc function, which we made, our display.mc function, and our tick.json. That's all we do. And then at the bottom of our screen there, you can see display clock.mc add-on. So after we zip it together, it's just one folder file. We just give it the extension mc.addon, and we can import it into our world. And once you've imported it into Minecraft, you can see right underneath our behavior file list, we have our working clock function pack. And you get a little description. Everything was in the manifest file, so you can actually see it right there within our game. We can then add it to our world by going to our behavior packs, and we can scroll through our packs and add it. In this case, I already have, so you can see working clock function pack is there. And that's pretty much it. So it's a pretty cool video. A nice little clock that you can add to your game without it being like in the way and distracting. If you've enjoyed this video, feel free to leave a like or a comment either on the Discord or here underneath the video. Be sure to subscribe if you like more content, or even follow my Frog Block series, my Let's Plays, anything like that. Anyway, hope that you found this useful and enjoyed that. Could use it in your own realm. There's a free pack on the Discord, so have fun. Take care now. Bye-bye.